The City of Oconomowoc Common Council meeting for January 6, 2026. Happy New Year, everyone. Would you please call roll?
Alderman Rosick.
Here.
Alderman Altman-Cloth. Here. Alderman Ellis.
Here.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Mulder.
Here.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Here.
Alderman McConnell.
Here.
Thank you very much. Has appropriate meeting notification been made?
It has, Your Honor.
Dean Frederick, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Well, welcome, everybody. I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of minutes for December 16th, 2025.
So moved, Rosick.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have comments from, suggestions from citizens in the audience. If you'd like to talk to the council and share anything that you'd like on any issue here in the city, please fill out a blue card and give it to Jason Gallo, and he'll bring it up. When you come up, please state your name, your address, and what city or municipality you live in. And then you have about 3 minutes. It's not a back and forth discussion. It's just it's an opportunity for you to share your views with the council. So first up is Mike Tees. Can you pass that down?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I got a question regarding the memorandum on the housing ratios. The suggested adjustment to it would approve the 354 apartments at Harvest. In addition to that, it would allow another 486 apartments without any increase to single-family homes or duplexes. I'd like someone to comment on that if possible.
So we're going to have a discussion a little bit about the ratios, and that will come up. This is a point for you to share your viewpoints on whatever issue you would like. So I'm sure that'll be addressed, but it'll be later in the council.
Okay.
This isn't a dialogue or a discussion part, but I appreciate you coming.
Okay, thank you. Also, if it's possible to get an update on the Village Green.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Do we have any other comments from community members? Seeing no comments, we're going to move on to new business. Paige, would you please introduce our first presentation, item 6A on the agenda. Very excited to have you folks here.
All right, so it's finally time to close out the 150th celebration with a little singing, and we have members of the Oconomowoc Community Choir who have graciously offered to come and sing I Took a Walk in Oconomowoc, if you haven't heard of this classic song. Tracy Garan, the choir director, is going to speak a little bit about who they are, and then they're going to get with it. If you guys want to get up when they sing, they're going to stand up here and face you, and you get to stand in the audience.
We'll head back there right now. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Council, for having us and everyone here tonight. As Paige said, my name is Tracy Guerin. I serve as the Artistic Director of our Oconomowoc Community Choir. What a joy to be a part of all the 150th things over this past year. We had our own song commissioned by Steph Seefeld, an Oconomowoc resident, and as part of our intergenerational choir, we give back to our city through scholarship of both students that are immediately part of our choir, and we're proud to be that intergenerational choir, as well as to students pursuing music as their passion in collegiate studies. We're super pleased to be just doing all that we can around the city. You may have heard us caroling at Avenue Square, down at the tree lighting, and so many more events, including our concert, which had 94 people from our community as a part of our choir in collaboration with the Intergenerational Handbell Choir from First Congregational Church. This next year, to kick off 2026, we will be heading to Carnegie Hall. So it's super exciting. Thank you. So super excited to be, we were invited by DCINY Distinguished Concerts International to premiere 2 world premieres from composer internationally acclaimed Heather Sorensen on Carnegie Hall stage. And we have 35 people now that are going to perform from our Oconomowoc Community Choir and with their families, some of them, and be in the Big Apple from November 28th through December 2nd. We're super excited. You'll hear more from us throughout the entire year, both with concerts, our Sacred Missions concert, as well as our Carnegie Cookbook fundraiser. I just want to announce that because it's my passion, where people are going to submit recipes and be a part of our Sacred Missions and our Give Back. We're singing at the Dock Hounds. We'll be doing another Brewer game this year. It's super, super exciting. If you want to help us out, we would love it. Either come sing with us, be a part of our fundraising mission, show up at our concerts, do whatever you do, but just give us a cheer because it's a big year coming up for us, and we're still doing all the stuff right here home in Oconomowoc for our 150th year. So super excited. Thanks again for having us. We'll sing I Went for a Walk in Oconomowoc. We have our 2 original verses. Then we have Mary Stenke's few original verses. And we had one of our members, you'll see Carolyn Wickard over here, and Blessed, her dog, which you can pet, is made up a verse for us and composed a verse for us too. So thank you again for having us. I know I'm going back and forth here, but thank you again.
George, my boy, where have you been? Your sight was so wise, my friend. I've been to Wisconsin in search of a deer, and
on sleep. Thank you, IT.
That was beautiful. Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Let's give them another round of applause, everybody.
They get the prize for saying Oconomowoc beautifully lots of times. All right, one more thing from me, and then we'll let you get to city business. I just made a very quick mashup of the last year for fun, and we'll share it on social, but of course I wanted to show it to you guys first. So I'm gonna move the mic to the sound. All right. There we go.
2025 season comes to an end.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year, everyone. Let's move on to consider act on the primary election for February 17th, 2026. Gina.
Thank you. So I have distributed the revised memo tonight at each of your seats that lists the updates to the candidate filings through 5 p.m. today, which is our deadline for anyone to file completed candidacy paperwork for spring election. With no more than 2 candidates running for any open seat, it will not be necessary for council tonight to consider a local primary, so this item can be removed from consideration. But we didn't know that when we said it, because we have to get that in through the 9th, so.
So moved. Thank you very much. We'll move on to consider and discuss housing ratios and provide direction to staff. Mr. Fry is going to lead us off, and you have the information in your packets. Mark.
Thank you, sir. So I'm going to walk through the background memo that was provided to you and just kind of detail a few things in there. And then Jason's going to come up. We have a couple slides on a PowerPoint just to walk through.
Can you pull your microphone a little closer?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Rookie. You think Paige would have been more considerate and had that ready, but, you know. No, I thought she did an excellent job on that. So at our last council meeting, it was discussed, you know, there was some conversation back and forth amongst the council regarding the ratios and the methodology that was used to determine what was in what class. And so I took it upon that, after hearing that conversation, opted to bring this item to you tonight to discuss that, to see, you know, where the council's at on it. Is it something we want to look at? Are you fine the way it is? You know, this is your call, so we're just going to walk through. But so starting out, you know, we wanted to look and see where are we at now. And Jason's worked on this very hard. I know that there's been a couple sets of numbers, because as he'd go through, he'd find something that got missed or something that was categorized wrong. But he's been working diligently to put this together. But currently, you know, we have a ratio of that we shouldn't be below 60% for single family. We're at 59.6, so close. We shouldn't exceed 35 for multifamily. We're at 35.6, and then 5% for the duplex. So what that's telling us is right now, literally, we are at our ratios. This is it. So no more multifamily, no more condos, unless it's a parcel of land that's already zoned for it right now. Is the only thing that can build until we get additional single-family homes platted. One of the items of conversation at the last meeting was regarding the condos. Right now, they're counted under the multifamily. And as Alderman Mulder pointed out, where he thought that that was proper was because of the appearance of the buildings. We didn't know if it was an ownership thing or how that was, but, you know, that was one of the comments that were made. I don't know if anybody else had any other thoughts, but I myself kind of struggle at that, knowing that we have a lot of very high-value condominiums in our city. I also look at it, there's a lot of similarities with single-family, and the fact that every condominium is a separate parcel. They have a separate tax key number, they get a separate tax bill. It's not like multifamily where someone owns the building and someone's paying the tax bill for that entire building. So if we were to look at, if so directed or the council had desire, we look to see what would happen if we shifted the condos out of multifamily and put them into the single family. And that's the next set of numbers that we're showing here, showing that single family would then go from the 59.6, 60% up to just 70%. The multifamily would go from 35% to 29%. And then the duplexes, because there's a lot of duplex condominiums. So that's why that number drops so drastically, that they'd be at 1%. And that was, you know, one of the easier things, you know, that we could look at doing here, you know, where we talked the financial impact, a residential development does have a cost providing services to it. And, you know, apartments, you know, do not place the same level of strain on the school as single family. The benefit of bringing in residential rooftops is the attraction of retailers. Retailers and businesses, you know, whenever someone comes to one of our staff meetings and, you know, they're pitching a project to us here, I always ask them why Oconomowoc, and they always look up and say, you know what, Oconomowoc's the place to be. I mean, literally, they all say that. So, so there is some proof there because we've seen, you know, quite a spurt of residential growth, you know, especially up on the north area and also along the south. So we were looking for a recommendation, and we're just going to talk, and like I said, we'll do the quick PowerPoint, and then we're going to turn it over, and you guys can have all the discussion you want. Jason and I will be here to answer any questions, but I did anticipate that someone might say, okay, where are we at with harvest? You know, this is the Cobalt Pabst Farms development, and right now, as Jason had reported, that if we added in their numbers, we would be at 58% on the single family. This is without any changes. And 37% on multifamily, and then 4.7% on the duplex. If we shifted the condos into single family, that would then put the ratio at 68%, 30% multifamily, and 1% for duplex. So obviously that would fit in there. The gentleman that spoke during comments had brought up some numbers and a question, and he's correct. This does free up a lot. We moved just over 1,100 condos out of multifamily and duplex over into the single family. So it would allow that. You know, one of the points that we'll make during the presentation, though, there's a couple things to remember, that any parcel of land that's right now zoned for this, we have some that are zoned multifamily or mixed commercial or things like that, where multifamily development could go by right now. Anything that would need to be rezoned, that whole process ends up here at the Common Council. You don't have to approve it. I mean, if you don't like a project somewhere, you don't have to approve it. So that's one of the benefits of having it go through that. So even if let's say we didn't have any ratios at all, someone, Pabst Farms, you know, that property needs to be rezoned. That process comes through here. And if you don't like that project or what they're putting there, then it's, you know, the council has the prerogative to then vote that down or not allow it or look to make changes. So with that, I'm going to turn it over so did I answer your question? Yes, they could build those, but anything that isn't zoned that way right now has to come through a process that the Common Council would have to approve if they made the change that's in the memo tonight. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that.
I have one question, Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Oh, I can wait till the end.
You
That's
can,
fine.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Jason,
fine.
did you want to come in?
Thanks, Mark. Good evening, council, mayor. Here we are again, talking about housing ratios. Mark
At least we're
and I are
not
taking
talking about chickens.
Maybe we'd rather talk about chickens.
This will be next council meeting.
some duplication with what Mark said, but we just want you to understand everything. There's a lot of numbers. I did a lot of calculations right around the Christmas holiday. I looked at all the condominiums, I reviewed the spreadsheets, and I have copies of all the spreadsheets of the last 10 years of what we all approved, so you can, if you want, we can share those spreadsheets with you. We actually also looked at elderly housing, and we pulled that out. So there's a lot of different ways of looking at it, but to keep it very simple and straightforward, you know, this is what we're talking about, the condominiums. You know, this is Pine Terrace, and this is the old Highlander, and this is the Kingsway development in the north called the Park at Prairie Creek, and this is the Glen of Oconomowoc, and this is Porticello. So they come in different sizes, different unit counts, you know, single story, 2-story. These are condominiums, and these are counted as either duplexes or multifamily right now. So going back 5 years, 6 years now, the comprehensive plan was adopted, and at that time, I highlighted this area. The policy is modified at that date in 19 to define the mix of owner-occupied versus renter-occupied. So we were at condos and single-family homes was one category, and then rental was the other. It did say this should be reviewed and updated on a 5-year basis. So this was page 47, that's important. 5 years later, we did something in 2024. We adopted ordinance 24-0-1055, and it references the policy on page 47, right here, page 47. So this is in our comprehensive plan, which is adopted by ordinance. Everything in it has to be changed by ordinance, but we changed it, even though the Plan Commission recommended a different way. You know, this is what they recommended. The Plan Commission would amend the comp plan by amending the mix on page 47 not to drop below 68%, not to exceed 32% renter-occupied dwelling units. But the council at that time changed it to change the policy on page 47, housing mix not to drop below 60% for single-family dwellings, 35% multifamily dwellings, and not to exceed 5 for duplex. In that, it doesn't state how that's defined. Single-family dwellings, is that a condominium? It could be, that's up to you to decide, but that's what we're going off of. That motion, here's the minutes of that meeting. It was an 8-0 vote, and it basically motioned to amend the ordinance to change the housing ratio policy, single-family, multifamily duplex, and remove renter versus owner designation. All of you here, except maybe Rusty McConnell, was voted for it. Right, Eric's not here, right. And that same night, you waived the second reading. So that was the motion. As Mark said, you know, unfortunately, I forgot to put Towner Crest in, so we were over 60, but that brought us down because it gained multifamily. And I don't know why that was not part of it, but I had to include that. So it brought the ratio under 60% for single family, and multifamily went a little bit over, but I wanted to give you the most accurate numbers. Duplex is at 4.8%. That's where we're currently at today. If developers come in, I share this with them, but then we say, you know, we'll have to look at amending this, or it can't be approved. So an option is to keep the ratios the same, the 60, 35, 5, but include condominiums as single-family dwellings. I think that was brought up at the last meeting, so I just wanted to provide a few comments on that. As Mark stated, it's viewed as a single property. Condominiums have individual tax key numbers. They're given individual property tax invoices. The values of these are different. They actually have an individual value. You know, apartment unit does not have a value per unit. A condominium does. These values are quite high. They're similar, you know, depending on what you're comparing to a single-family home. Most condominiums that I'm aware of are owner-occupied, and they tend to stay longer and maintain the inside of the structure, the outside of the structure, and the yard. You know, the yard is usually an association, but they do maintain it. The OASD, the Oconomowoc Area School District, says that they don't impact, condominiums don't have the same impact. Usually it's a different crowd. Maybe it's an older crowd, or it's a young family just starting out that don't have children school age. Fire calls seem to be a little bit less too at condominiums than single-family neighborhoods. So if we, Mark, comes right out of your memo. I did a snip out of Mark's memo. If we updated the ratio, the definition, we kept the same numbers, the 60-35, but we changed it to, we added the condominiums to single-family home category. That's kind of a double whammy. It increases the single-family number while it decreases multi. So it's a pretty drastic change. It takes it from the 59% all the way up to 70%. And then multifamily is reduced down to 28%, and duplex is reduced a lot too, but the base of duplex is pretty small to begin with, to 1%. And these numbers do include everything that's been approved to date, but may not have even been built. You know, we have Prairie Creek Ridge 11 is in this, that hasn't started. We have Weston Acres out on the west side, that hasn't started yet. So those numbers are already in here. So we were provided the numbers of the harvest at Pabst Farms, and Mark shared these calculations. This is one of the projects that we have out there that have multifamily that are considering the city. And what would this do? Single family, this is, if we didn't change anything, we'd be at 58%. So if you really like the harvest, but you don't want any more multifamily, that would be the numbers to go with. If you change the policy and the definition, and we would have to talk to legal about how does that get changed? Is that a whole nother ordinance, or is that a resolution? But if you change the way you defined it to include single-family condominiums as one category, then those would be the numbers with the harvest. So things to consider tonight. The ordinance that was adopted in 2024 set the ratio for single-family homes not to be lower than 60%, not to exceed 35% for multi, and not to exceed 5% for duplexes. We could consider amending the housing mix, the definition, to 60% minimum to include both single-family homes and condominium units, and we gave reasons why. 35% maximum for multifamily, and duplex rentals not to exceed 5. Currently, the city is set at that ratios. The ordinance does not allow any waivers from that, so we cannot bring forth a project unless these are amended. So there is that thought, well, we can just wait until additional land, and that's true. Additional land would need to be platted for single-family homes before new condos, multi-family, or duplexes could be approved. I do have a map available if you are interested in where that land is, but the problem with the land that's still in the city borders is it's very challenging to develop due to infrastructure costs, and there's just some landowners that aren't ready to develop at this time. There are really no pending single-family developments. I don't have any projects in my office waiting to bring forward to you. There's not a single one of anyone that wants to create single-family homes right now. So I don't see the wait-and-see strategy working, because you'd have to bring in a lot of single-family, and we don't have any. Again, Mark really tried hammering home that any land requesting a rezoning to multifamily requires common council approval. You know, we don't have a comprehensive plan that's loaded with multifamily that they can come in and our hands are handcuffed saying we have to approve it. The comprehensive plan shows these big areas that are still vacant as suburban residential. So any rezoning would have to come before you, and you can say no. Rezoning's not granted if the city is not in compliance with the ratio. So we're not gonna grant anything unless it's in compliance. So that's the presentation. Feel free to ask any questions that you might have.
So at this time, council, if you have questions, this is a discussion, there's no action item. We just want to get all this information out, as we do have a proposal coming into the queue for you guys to consider this. Alderman Altman Cloth.
So first of all, I apologize, I was not here last meeting, I had a work commitment that same day, but I did talk with Mark before that meeting. And I don't know if I kind of shared this part with you or not, but when we voted on this before, like, this was the one part I really struggled with. I wanted us to kind of lock down the housing ratio to kind of prevent, you know, this mass, influx of apartments. But then at the same time, you know, the condos, and I get what you're saying, you know, the appearance of it, that really makes a lot of sense. But when you look at a lot of our condos, and I still remember Lisa, I can't think of her last name, from over at Fowler Lake, when she came in at one time, because there was all this talk about condos and how horrible condo owners were, and she came in here and she's like, you know, I serve in this community, I live in this community, I shop in this community, I live here year-round. Quit demonizing us. And I still remember her public comment, but our condo owners, these are expensive condos in our area. So the fact that they're considered renters, you know, are in that ratio. And when we talk to our constituents, and you guys can disagree with me on this, but I think one of the biggest things that we hear about apartments that people are worried about is apartments coming in and decreasing their home value. Apartments coming in 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, 20 years from now, whoever built the apartment sells it off to some other person, and it becomes this dilapidated apartment complex, which could happen. But now, like, you take like the park, or Eagles Landing, that's never going to happen to that. Those are always going to be $1 million, $600,000, Fowler Lake, like, what's the cheapest to get in there? $400,000 right now? Probably even more by now. I mean, that was the last time I looked a couple of years ago. Those aren't going to decrease or go to shambles. So I don't love the idea of shifting it and then allowing this, like, oh, we can build all these apartments now. But I do agree that condos should be considered owner-occupied. And I don't know if we can shift the ratios a little bit. You know, like you showed the one slide that if we put them into there, it would go to 70%. You know, can we make it then that it's 75? Or however the numbers were. I didn't do the numbers, but I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on that.
Alderman Ellis?
Okay, one question was answered, and that was as far as single family, if there was any single family is going to be built, and I understand that there is not at this point in time. And for the most part, is it the condos or apartments that are being built? What is it going forward? You said you had 2 other projects out there. What are they?
The projects that are showing interest right now would be existing developments in the city that are geared for elderly, it'd be independent living. We classify independent living, it's just a fancy word for apartment, but it's generally for seniors, which would be limited to, I don't know the age limit, 55 and older, 60 and older, but then the
65,
average.
65. we'll do it.
65. But then the average that they get in there are more like 80, you know, so there's been some interest in those. So it, you know, are we gonna get another large-scale apartment? No, I don't, those, like another Hackney House or Norton Range, no. I don't think those are the ones asking right now. It's more like elderly, like the Evan is doing an expansion right now, the Evan of Oconomowoc. It's things like that that are looking, plus this, the Harvest Project is the other one. That would be not elderly housing.
And there seems to be a need right now, would you say?
Well, they can't build these apartments fast enough. You know, they are building them in PAPS 59 right now, but, so I think there is a need for elderly. The baby boomers are working their way up, and I think this is what people want right now.
Are you done, Kevin?
I am, thank you.
Alderman Mulder?
Could you go back to the slide where you showed the ratio numbers?
Thank you.
I wasn't sure.
This one. So just again, me and stats, right? If we were to keep this ratio of 60%, 35 and 5, and move the condos into single family, that would allow us to build, one second, phone went off. We could have 5,161 multifamily units if we don't change the ratio. Maybe that's this intention, but the ratio, moving condos into single family and not changing the ratio, to me, doesn't seem like a viable option, because we would be allowing in another 1,200 single family by law. So just something to think about. That would allow us to really increase the number of multifamily. That's just a side note. I think that there's two ways of looking at this. I think when we put condos with multifamily, I was responding, I won't speak for you, I was responding to the community's impression of what they want. And what I continually hear is more single family, less large scale development. To me, that doesn't matter whether it's a condo. People are not saying, I don't want more condos. They're saying, I don't want more Hackney houses. I don't want more Eagles Landings. They don't want those big, really dense use. And that's what I was responding to. Now, that may not be a good policy for us, because that may not be best, highest use for some of the lands that exist. We may not be able to generate the most tax revenue from those properties. So I think there's really two things we're talking about, but I don't think of renters as less than, and I don't think we should think of renters than less than. I think, we know that Oconomowoc has a real shortage of affordable housing. There's a house by us, 600 square feet, that sold for $400,000 with, detached garage and a gravel driveway. So the people that are spending money in our city, and are primarily renters, or a lot of them are renters. And so I don't want to, think of renters as less than. It's more of what do we want the mix to be from the way the community's constructed, not who's owning or who's living in those properties. So I think we need to adjust the ratio, and I think we need to determine what criteria we're using when we make that adjustment. Is it the look and feel we want, or is it the economic outcome that ratio could drive?
Do you think this looks like an ugly condo? Picture right there?
I don't think it looks like an ugly condo.
So I think it's, the challenge that I see is the aspect of what people view as multifamily and view as condos. When I think of people viewing condos, my perception is it's what's downtown. When I see groups of apartments, there are certain levels of expectation, but I think the key point here for this council in the months and years ahead is that you have control over it because of zoning. And so you have one big project that's in front of you, so that's why this is being brought forward. But I respect your comments that renters are not less than homeowners, but their behaviors can be different. And so I respectfully disagree with the blanket comment of that, Matt, because what makes Oconomowoc special is people's engagement in the community. It's the nonprofits, it's the events. And when you have someone that lives here 2 or 3 years and moves, which the average turnover is about 3 years, what you hope is that they move to buy single family, but there's not enough of those, right? So you have some of it being transient, which is wonderful, and they can be great people. But what makes us, that small town charm is really the people and the engagement and going, faith-based groups, the charities, the nonprofits, everybody getting involved. So my take and my perception is different from that. I respect what you said and I understand where you're coming from. I truly believe, and I've believed this ever since, because I was very surprised when this vote came and changed, that the recommendation by the Plan Commission and those ratios was really the right way to go. But I said that and I lost that battle. And I think right now you have something in front of you. You've got to decide if it's best use or what you want to do with it. There's always a way to make something work. But I also think that it's important, like you say, hey, we don't want to have too many apartments, and I agree with that. I just don't look at condos as apartments. I don't view it that way at all. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in, because it's a discussion, not an action item tonight. Alderman Rozak.
I just want to, can you guys pull the ordinance back up so we can have that in front of us? The 2024 one, that's all I wanted to say right now. I just wanted to look at it.
So are you making comments, Matt, or?
Oh, yeah, I'm done for now.
Oh, okay. He's going to look, any other comments from Alderman Shellpepper?
So I support keeping the definitions the way they currently are. I think the intent of the document is to guide the policy of the community. And similar to Alderman Mulder, the feedback I've received from the community is what is the character that we want our residential housing to look like? Do we want it to look like single-family housing? Or do we want it to look like multifamily housing? Do we want to be a single-family community, or do we want to be a multifamily community? And so it's not necessarily, I guess single-family naturally lends itself to fall down the lines of an owner-occupied facility versus a renter, but that's not the intent of where I'm trying to get at, because ultimately what I want to promote and encourage more is the single-family housing. And if that means we need to get more nuanced about what our definition is of single-family in terms of some of the pictures we saw, I'm happy to do that. But I'm not supportive of putting in places like the park, the village at Lac La Belle, the Fowler Lake Village, and Eagles Landing into the single-family definition. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, if the council decided it wanted to completely change the definitions and go with what the Planning Commission was saying in terms of, changing to owner-occupied versus renter-occupied, I still wouldn't support that, because I don't think that gets to the heart of what the community wants us to address in terms of the way that it looks. I'm more comfortable saying, here's what we generally want it to look like. 60%, single family. Here the other definitions are for multifamily and duplex, and then make adjustments on the fringes as needed, responding to real-world situations that are being proposed. What we're seeing from the harvest right now would be a 1.5% change, is what basically I'm picking up from what we'd have now. So instead of, 59.6, it's 58.1. That does not fundamentally, substantively change that mix. I'm comfortable making those adjustments as needed along those lines. But to completely blow up what the definitions are and to start, allowing all these larger, the condo and multifamily buildings to now be classified in single family through some back door, I wouldn't support that. We did the definitions to put a clamp on it, to put a check on it. That's why it was 8-0. It's kind of crazy to me now that we're questioning that, so. And we knew we could make changes as we needed to.
But I think it's a good thing, because once the clamp is put on, it brings it back to this body to really try to flesh out what you want to do. So I think the purpose is that if you have a good project, then you have to decide if there's some tweaks or things you want to do, or do you want to, as Jason said, one of the options is to redo those ratios. I don't think anybody has a plan on doing anything at this point. Today's discussion is to share all the different options and make sure we get it out before things come forward to us. Alderman Spiegelberg.
as we go forward and give direction to Jason, I would like to see what some other communities around us have as far as their definitions of this. I only checked into one today, New Berlin. I still have resources there. And I believe they do include condos with their single-family homes, and they are at, I think, right around 75% for that, 25% for rentals. But I think we need to take that into consideration as well and see how they are justifying what they're doing. I just think we're getting too caught up in the mire and the muck of all of these numbers and ratios instead of looking at the bigger picture, especially as our borders are pretty much set right now, as far as what we want Oconomowoc to look like and what we want it to be like for people. Some people who would rather rent than be owner-occupied. It's a bigger picture thing that I think we need to look at.
Alderman Rozak?
Yeah, a lot of good comments. I think we would be, after just passing this a year ago, I think we would look pretty silly going back and trying to amend it now. The discussion after this debate, and I recollect that we had a project come before us that was gonna put apartments in, that would have put them above the ratio, and my comment to the developer was, you can ask for a comp plan change, which is where we're at now. We don't have to change the ratios, we don't have to mess around with it. I did argue in favor of condos being part, more owner occupied than less. I think Chaz made a great point, is that maybe some point we get a little more nuance with what we're looking like. I think when people think multifamily, they think the large buildings. The condo pictures, and Jason, well done with the condo pictures. Those ones look really good. I think, you've got the one or two single, the side-by-side condos that are, $600,000 each. I don't think people conceptualize that the same way in my head either as the large buildings. And I think what people don't like is the large mass buildings versus, the side-by-side condos that are $800,000 each with a pool in the backyard. So, I think we could be more nuanced. Chaz had a great point on that. That's something we could look at. But I don't think we should be changing the ratio now. We can make a comp plan change as needed. It does give us more control, and that was another really key point Chaz made, is this, our change allows us to give more control over the amount of multifamily coming in. It gives us that final piece of control. We can change the comp plan for the right project. If we like the Harvest, we like what they're doing, we like that they've added a ton more single-family homes and more condos, and we know it's gonna adjust our ratio 1% here or there. That's the decision we have to make. And we're sticking with the spirit of what we did, which is to put kind of controls on constant multifamily building in the area. And I think that's what our constituents wanted us to do. They didn't want to give carte blanche to developers to just put up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rental units without any control. And this allowed us to do that control. So I'm not in favor of changing it. I am potentially in favor of looking at comp plan changes for the right project if it's presented to us properly. So,
Rusty?
I think the challenge is precedent right now. We voted on this just a mere few years ago, and it said down here that should be reviewed every 5 years, and we're well under that 5-year review mark. So coming and having this conversation about changing the ordinance for a single project, I think is a dangerous precedent. And so if we are gonna change something, we need to do a lot of research, as to Alderman Spiegelberg's point, on what is the standard for single family, multifamily. We shouldn't just arbitrarily change that because it makes a single project work. And I don't think we'd be having this conversation if it wasn't for the Harvest. So if we all thought that it needed review, we should have brought it up, but we can't let a project dictate this conversation. And that would be my opinion on it.
Well, and I think those are good comments. Going through the process with Jason, because Jason and his team did an incredible job, looking at all the comparisons because we looked at a lot of other communities, the quality of the data that we received and the aging was so poor, it was very difficult to have confidence in their ratios. Karen, as your question is, as to what Jason does, I think Jason has probably done some of the best work of any community in putting that level of detail there, which is nice, but also can be challenging. Chaz, those I think were really good comments about looking at this individual project, and the same thing with Alderman Rozak. I do feel that in the spirit of how these ratios went forward, they were brought forward as Matt said, is to say, hey, if we have a really good project, we'll look at it and maybe we'll amend it. And I think that was how it was passed the first time. So my suggestion is to council is that you look at it in that fashion, doing a whole analysis. We've done that, doing the whole rework of this whole thing, going and making major changes in ratios right now doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't think that's a good use of our time. I don't think that is efficient. But I also think that it's something, future mayors and councils can say, hey, let's look at this again as we start to see the different levels of growth. The large, tall buildings that are apartments, none of us like to look at. And so if you're looking at a new project, you have to think about what are you getting in that new project? Is that what you want to look like? And then if they put something that's the best use for that piece of property, then do you want to amend so that it can fit into everything and still work? So those are just kind of my 2 cents, but I want to throw it back to any other comments. Jason, if you have any, or Mark. Dean, if you have any comments from Plan Commission, always welcome to hear your thoughts too.
As the zoning administrator, I'm generally the first point of contact, and these developers come to me, like the Harvest project, and, we're meeting with them this week to go through the project, and, this is very timely discussion because I'm not sure how to approach it. Do I tell them to apply for the comp plan amendment at this point? I'm looking for feedback from the council of how to go forward. I don't want to take something forward to you and have them go through that, and then you guys tell me, what are you doing? It doesn't meet the ratios, So we want to make sure that we're on the same page with the council as staff and looking for direction on that.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
So what are you looking for from us tonight?
Jason's
At
just
least a
looking for
majority
direction
of
for their
what-
meeting.
Right,
Yeah, and
right.
it's, what we don't want to do is waste their time, nor
Right.
do we want to waste ours. But you have a pretty nice project. Is it right where you want it? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe more things have to be done. But if you're going to do that, they need to know what their path is.
Well, as a point of order, the agenda item is not to discuss the Harvest. The agenda item is
Correct.
discussing ratios. So we aren't giving any direction tonight from council about the Harvest.
Not for the Harvest.
The
Correct.
direction should be like it was when we created the ratio. If they want to bring a project, they can ask for a comp plan change that changes the actual percentage. We're not changing the definition of the ratio, but we can change the percentage for a project that comes in and has all the bells and whistles that we approve. That's what I heard on this council floor tonight.
And the council welcomes those discussions, like we're not opposed to those, we want those discussions, that's why.
And it could be any project. It doesn't have to be the
It's
Harvest.
just the Harvest is the one in front of us right now. but
And I
it's
truly
any-
believe that was the spirit and why that vote went 8-0, is to be able to make sure you can have Oconomowoc look the way we want it to.
Okay.
I think that's pretty clear, Jason. Does anybody have any disagreements on council with that direction? On what we would do in these types of situations? Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Unless you have a comment.
I do.
Go for it.
So, the comment was made that, this was coming because of the one project. Actually, when I started working on this after listening to the comments at that council meeting, I saw that we're at our ratios. So anything coming in
Anything.
that isn't single family is going to need something. And that's why we're here having the discussion to bring that point up. That's why we walked through where we are with the ratios right now. It was for that purpose. Once again, this is a council discussion, it's a council decision. If everybody's comfortable and we go through comp plan amendments, that's something that everybody should know, and we'll have to look at, the process of doing that and what that does add to some projects, and, where are we gonna be at with the amount of information that's needed for that. So, once again, no issues there at all from staff. We're here to carry out what the council wants, but I felt it was important to have the discussion because we were at the ratio. So that's why we're here.
Attorney Riffle.
This has troubled me from the time that we did this. I'm sorry, I got a little problem here. But I'm here to try to protect us from unintended consequences, right? That's my job. We have, through our comp plan and through the ordinance that we adopted, a ratio that sets forth percentages for single-family, multifamily, and duplex units. Our definitions in our zoning code are very specific with regard to those. There's no accounting for condos here. And so I'm concerned about the fact the unintended consequence will skew these numbers and not get you to where you want to be with regard to making sure that we have the maximum number of single-family residential units. Because, and I have to do this in open session because we're talking in open session. I can't go into closed session and do this. I think that it is an alarm that we need to deal with how we're going to ratio condos. We have to, or else somebody can come in and say, you know, we're well within the percentage of doing multifamily residential because condos aren't in here. And so it's very important for us to attack this.
Wait a second, we don't define multifamily? What is multifamily?
Multifamily does not include condominiums.
But multifamily says more than so many units per parcel, right? What does it say?
More than 2.
And a condominium plat is typically, is a condominium plat one parcel or multiple parcels with 2 condominiums on one parcel?
A condominium plat is not a multifamily as defined in your code.
I have to figure that out.
So, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there because, and I think everybody here said, we gotta attack it, right? We gotta deal with this. We don't wanna just ignore it.
So why did we attack it a year ago?
Well, I think that you.
It's
if
very
you-
confusing.
Well, sorry, I'm just throwing it out there. You might wanna think about this. Because there's an unintended consequence that could happen here. Somebody could say, well, I'm well within my ratio to add more multifamily units. Because if you take condos out of the mix completely, and I didn't do the math, maybe, Jason, if we took multifamily or condos completely out, you would include them in the total number of units, but they're not accounted for in this ratio, because you can say that they're multifamily, right? You say you're counting them with multifamily, but somebody could say, well, those aren't multifamily, those are condos.
What's on the screen right now is the ratio. We took all the single family and then we added with condos, brought us up to 70%. And then the multifamily that's left over was 28 that are pure rentals, 28.9, and then the duplex rentals was about 106 units.
But if you took the condos completely out, you still might be okay. Still might be okay. So that might not be an argument that a shrewd developer could make. I'm
But
just doing the math in my head.
this has not what we're going off of. This was a recommendation from staff.
I know, Jason.
As a possible
I'm sorry.
way.
I'm just trying to do the math in my head here. Anyway, I think that you really have to attack I think you should account for condos in some manner. I really do.
So you're asking us to define,
Not tonight. You've asked,
Tonight's discussion.
right, it's a discussion, but you're asking us to define
What a
where
condo is.
condos go.
maybe include it in your ratios.
As a separate
Like a
entity.
Separate entity.
Right. But why did we not do that before, 2 years ago?
It was a total,
The miss.
can you have
Dean.
it, Todd?
We did. We did at Plan Commission.
Okay.
Dean, can you come up to the microphone, please?
It's this paragraph right here.
Thanks, Jason.
no,
It's
it's
purely planning commission history, not my personal opinion. I could give you that too, but from,
Speak up a little bit more.
as far as the
mind
planning,
hearing it.
Would it sound the same?
it might be similar. The planning commission, when they considered the 68-32 ratio, looked at the overall comp plan, including the lands out west, that even though they're not ready to develop yet, someday they're going to be single family, and they'll affect that ratio. And also knowing that every 5 years is going to re-review this. So when we looked at the ratio 68 to 32, at least me personally looking at, but the planning commission was unanimously in favor of that. We looked at it from the standpoint that we were including condos as single-family units, or together with single-family units as ownership, the way the comp plan defined ownership versus rental.
It's because, and that, Dean, that's because that was the old way, though. Before we changed it to this, the original, the way the comp plan read was the owner occupied versus renter occupied. That was changed in 2012 or 13 or something to that. And so you're saying the condos were considered because they're owner occupied?
Correct.
But
In
what-
2019, when the comp plan was updated
Right.
the last time, that's
And
the
then we went a
definition.
different direction, the council. What I think Stan's trying to say is, he thinks neither plan has condos really called out separately. The owner occupied would certainly include condos, but like we talked about on the council floor with regard to this issue, we don't always know, it might be an owned house, but can be rented. So we were struggling with that too, you know, where do we go with that?
And that's always a struggle, because that goes both ways for single-family homes too.
Yeah.
You never really know what that
Yeah.
number is, so you kind of have to do a
Yeah,
little
there's
give and
gonna be
take.
some
and-
room to move there.
And
a look
that's
at-
another problem, because under our Constitution, you have a right to rent your property. So if you try to memorialize that concept in an ordinance, you potentially could be attacked on constitutional grounds.
But we're not
So-
we're not the only city.
No, I
doing
know,
this.
we're not. I know, Matt. And so, but that's why you were very careful not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all know that we're trying to accomplish the same thing, but we have to be careful in terms of even talking about that. These are categories, you know, condo, rental is rental, you know? Certainly that is not owner occupied. So I'm just here to try to protect us, because that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Thanks, Steve.
Mr. Chairman or Mayor, if I could also add, the planning commission considered that any project that looks to be good for the city, to add value to the city, that meets the intent of the master plan or the comp plan, should be reviewed and considered, always. The one thing that I'll defer to our city attorney, with the ordinance as it's written, I think you have prescriptive measures that you cannot exceed. It doesn't allow you that flexibility the way this ordinance is written.
Unless you change your comp plan.
Right,
Which is what they
we're
wanted.
talking about. Yeah, and so I was gonna ask about the comp plan, though. Does it statutorily require that the housing ratio is included in the comp plan, or that's something we
No.
that's something we decide to do?
Correct.
Yep.
On our own?
Years ago, and we just
You decided that
updated
you
it.
wanted to bind future common
Yeah,
councils.
right. That's what I thought. I just wanted to,
And you have,
yep.
including yourselves right now.
Well, but, I'm sorry. This is actually a really engaging debate. Dean brought up a good point. The way that the ordinance reads right now, not to drop below 60%, we're actually right now not in compliance
Yeah,
with
that's a good
our
point.
comp plan. So right, and so what Dean's suggesting, and where I think he was going, what I understand him to say is, right now, that we can't approve anything with this mandatory language in the ordinance, but we can change the comp plan, which is what we're
Yes.
saying. So if a development comes in that's large and big, whatever it is, I mean, let's not talk about the harvest. Let's pretend, you know, a couple buildings downtown burned down, and they want to come back and make these all condos. And we thought, that's a great density in downtown, and they're gonna add 50 condo units downtown. You know, on the corner, you know, the Four Corners building goes down, then somebody wants to rebuild it, make it all condos. We can make that change to the comp plan and allow a percentage difference to do that project. So I think we're in a good spot here, you know? Let them bring it forward.
Any other questions or comments from council?
Thanks, Dean.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, Mark's got another thing to say?
No, I'm not raising any trouble here. I just want to thank the council for all their communication and discussion on this item. I think it really helped. I just wanted to get clarification because I knew we were there. So thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Do we have any staff reports today?
No.
No. Do we have any reports or comments from Alderman this evening? Alderman Ellis?
Yeah, today I had a few minutes, and I decided, if you recall, we had Journey 21 that came and kind of would like for us to all kind of tour the area, I strongly recommend you do so. It is very nice. I think what they've done there is fantastic. So, yeah, I had a really good time. Thank you.
Any other, Alderman Spiegelberg?
I just want to publicly offer my condolences to Alderman Rozak at the sudden loss of his mom. I'm sure I echo the feelings of everybody on the council here. We're very sorry.
Thank you.
Any other comments from Alderman? Alderman Altman Cloth.
Well, we knew this was coming, and Chief Pfister kind of reminded me of this today, that Officer Hogan's retirement is finally here. And when my daughter, my oldest, was a freshman in high school, he was the resource officer, and the kids just adored him. And they were really sad when he moved on, and he served our city for a long time. It's going to be sad to see him go, but not Pfister, Officer Hogan. It's going to be sad to see him go, but also we just wish Officer Hogan the best in retirement.
Absolutely. Well said. Anybody else?
I'll just say one
Alderman
thing.
Rozak.
Yeah, I do appreciate all the kind words from my fellow council members and city staff and people that called me about my mother. So thank you, Karen. Thank you, everyone that said, sent me a text or called me. I do really appreciate it.
Final comments from the mayor. Just Happy New Year, everybody. And things are all set, locked and loaded for the election in April. So for all of you that have put your names back in the pile and those running for mayor, thank you very much. It's quite an honor to work with you here, but also the amount of energy that you guys put into this council and what you give to the community, it's pretty amazing. So thank you all. I'd like to entertain a motion to go, or adjourn.
So moved. Motion to go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Boys are still up? Probably not.
No, we're good. 4 years ago or so.
Dean.
I work around, she's just giving